Welcome back to Dot Life. We are continuing with our Neighborhoods series, and we are here today with members of the board from the Melville Park Association. I'm joined by Doreen Treacy. Hi, Doreen.
Hi.
And Bill MacDonald.
Hi.
Hi, thanks both for coming.
Sure.
Melville Park is one of my favorites. It's absolutely beautiful.
Ours too, yes.
So for folks who don't know where Melville Park is, what are the boundaries?
So we are south of Park, north of Center, east of Washington, and west of Dot Ave.
That's pretty small.
Yeah, we're very small. Small neighborhood.
Yeah, and you both live there.
Yes.
We do.
And what do you do? Can you introduce yourselves?
Sure. So I'm Doreen Treacy. I live on Wellesley Park, one of the streets with the parks in Melville Park, and I work for the City of Boston Office of Workforce Development.
And Bill?
Bill MacDonald. I live on Tremlett Street, also one with parks, and I'm a real estate broker.
What do you mean when you say one with parks?
So with the passive parks, with the tree-lined median divided streets.
Oh, nice. Very, very cool. Are there streets in Melville Park that don't have parks?
Yes.
Most of them. There are three that do.
Okay.
So there's Centerville, Wellesley, and Tremlett.
Okay. So it's a pretty small, contained neighborhood. There's a lot of divided roads, what are called parks. What else makes Melville Park distinctive?
You know, one of the things, I've lived there for 32 years and have seen so much happening in the neighborhood. And I think from my perspective, the thing that makes it so special are the people and the way that people come together as a community, and people know each other. And we have, as Bill knows because he's a dog walker, there are lots of dogs in our neighborhood which bring people together, and we think that's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
You're a dog walker, or you have a dog?
No, I have a dog.
Okay.
Yeah.
What kind of dog do you have?
I've got a 60-pound pit bull at home.
Nice.
We got her from Animal Rescue League 5 years ago, so she was a COVID dog.
What's her name?
Beatrice.
That's a great name.
Birdie for short.
No, I mean, obviously people make a neighborhood, but I think one of the things that I think of when I think of Melville Park is gorgeous houses, beautiful, distinctive architecture.
Yeah, absolutely. The homes tend to be, the lots are a pretty generous size. The homes tend to be on the larger side.
Yeah.
Beautiful old Victorian homes. But, I think the size does kind of lend itself, because we are a smaller neighborhood, does lend itself to, everybody kind of knows everybody, which is, a big plus.
Architecturally, there's a lot of Queen Anne Victorians. My street, Wellesley Park, was developed in 1898, and it was formerly the Vinson Farm. And just like developments today, when the builders came in, Craddock and Allen came in to build that section of Melville Park, they were looking to build aspirational houses, because the houses on Wellesley Park, what makes them distinctive is that there's 26 built around a green space with the original gas lights. And the houses on Melville Ave were grand. The aldermen lived there, doctors lived there. And so when they built streets like Wellesley Park, it was trying to make people who were more middle class feel like they could be part of the Melville Ave crowd.
Okay.
And one of the really interesting things about the architecture on Wellesley Park is that just like now, when a new development goes in and homeowners or home buyers can say, oh, I would like to have this kind of bathroom or, this kind of kitchen, and I'll pay for this upgrade. The houses on Wellesley Park, some of them are cookie cutter. You can look across the street and find your twin house. But when you get in the house, there may be differences in how much stained glass there is, or the baluster decorations.
Okay.
So
personal touches.
Personal touches. You can really see how, when it was developed, individuals were able to put their stamp on the houses that they were going to buy.
Was it a suburban neighborhood at the time?
It was called the streetcar suburb. Dorchester was, because it was. There was a streetcar that came down Dorchester Avenue, I believe. There was the train car lot in Fields Corner, where the Target is now.
Right. Okay.
I believe that's where it was. So yes, it was a streetcar suburb, and
Interesting.
that was one of the selling points to folks who wanted to live in the neighborhood.
And some of those gas lights are still there, right?
Only on Wellesley Park.
And there's still gas?
They are still gas.
Oh.
I believe we're one of 3 streets in Boston that have retained them.
I think
We don't-
Charlestown might have some.
Oh,
if I
Charlestown
remember
definitely
right.
does.
Yeah.
You will find the odd one here and there, though. Like
Okay.
I've seen them in, a kind of like a paper road in the back of like in like Mission Hill and stuff
Okay.
like that.
Yeah. That's really neat. That's very kind of homey.
Yeah, the neighbors had to fight for that in the 70s when they were creating all the electric street lamps, street lights in the neighborhood. Folks fought for that. The Wellesley Park neighbors worked with their aldermen and really fought to keep the gas lights and also to retain the park on Wellesley Park. Another interesting story of developers is that when the original developers were developing the park, they told all of the owners who purchased the outer perimeter houses that the park would retain it as a central beauty spot.
Mm-hmm.
And then after everyone had moved in, about 6 months later, they looked out their window and saw people digging foundations in the center of the park.
No.
And when
Is it wide enough?
it is.
Okay.
It is wide enough. And so the neighbors got together and fought it.
Yeah.
And they purchased the park and gave it to the city in perpetuity.
Okay.
But the
It
neighbors,
cannot be developed.
It cannot be developed. But the neighbors had to pay a betterment tax every year to maintain the park. And that happened all the way through. I'm not sure when it stopped. It certainly before my time.
Okay.
But interesting story
Yeah.
about how, now we retain this beautiful park
Right.
that really makes the street
People
special.
rallied together.
Really cool.
Yeah. What other architecture? I know you said there's a lot of Queen Anne's. Is there any other style that kind of defines that neighborhood?
There is stick style on Melville Ave up toward the top near Washington Street.
Okay.
There is Greek Revival. There's a couple of Greek Revival buildings.
Dutch colonial.
Dutch Colonial, yeah. And there are some really noteworthy houses. Arthur Vinyl was a very famous architect in Boston, and he built his own house on the corner of Alston and Melville.
Okay.
It's a remarkable house. Inside, it's Moorish style, I believe.
Okay.
I could be wrong, and I know that my historian neighbors are probably
Banging on
yes. But it's a very unique house. A very unique house. There's none like it in the neighborhood.
When you say Moorish, you mean like like Moorish Spanish influence?
Yes.
Oh, that must be very cool. Yeah. That's not very Boston.
No.
It's not. It's not.
So the other thing you think of when you think of Melville Park is Halloween. We just finished Halloween. It's November 5th today. So talk about the Halloween celebrations.
Yeah, we had a great Halloween. Very busy up on Melville. I think, for myself, our house got maybe fewer trick-or-treaters than we anticipated. So
What is fewer? Like, what is normal?
we give away thousands of pieces of candy.
I do.
Yeah.
I buy 2,100 pieces every year.
Oh, my gosh.
And I still have to shut my light out at some point.
Wow.
And I only give one per bag. But I do give candy to the parents who walk around and put their hand out, because I believe anybody who's willing to walk around for a mile or 2 miles is worthy of a Kit Kat.
Right.
And so
Agreed.
sometimes I, give multiples per family, but
Yeah.
2,100 pieces is my standard purchase.
Wow. And so how many-ish did you give out this year, Bill?
I kind of lost track, but I do have an enormous surplus. So I'm
I'm
almost
so
embarrassed.
disappointed you didn't bring it in.
I did not bring it in.
But so you think it was like hundreds this year instead of thousands?
When you get up on Melville, I walked my son and neighbor up the street up on Melville. There were still thousands up there, I
Okay.
would imagine.
Mhm.
But I think, trickling out to the side streets, it can get a little chaotic. They do some road closures up on Dorchester Ave and on Washington. But traffic then kind of goes to the side streets. So I think that
Yeah.
people really try to their main focus is up on Melville.
What was the best costume you saw this year?
Oh my gosh, there were so many good costumes. There were this year. There were a preponderance of these blow up, big inflatable. There was a Garfield. There was a chipmunk. There was a duck, like a rubber ducky. But the best hands down costume I saw was there was about a 3-year-old in a wagon in a duck costume with white and blue balloons all blown up all around the outside of the wagon, so it looked like a bathtub with bubbles.
Oh my gosh.
And I thought that was hands down one of the best costumes I saw this year.
I missed them. I did see one that was one of those blow-up costumes, but I don't know the character it was, but it was upside down. And whoever was in the blown-up costume had like people to the left and the right. They're like, they can't see anything. So they're just
it was intended to be upside down.
Yeah, intended to be upside down, and they were being kind of shepherded through the neighborhood by family.
Yeah.
Yeah, Halloween is like a national holiday in our neighborhood. It is
People
so
come in
festive.
from all over, right?
They do.
Yeah.
And there's a tradition that started, at least this is the lore, around the late 70s, early 80s, when at that point in time, a lot of Boston Globe staff were moving into the neighborhood. This is after there was the big flight leaving all of Dorchester. And so a lot of these sort of young Globe reporters and their families were moving in. And so
getting these giant, gorgeous houses for a song.
Probably for $5,000 or something like that. And so it became a place where people felt comfortable trick-or-treating, because Dorchester at that time did not have a lot of enclaves where you may have felt comfortable trick-or-treating. I mean, Ashmont Hill was probably another comparable neighborhood. But that's the history that I know of.
And it's grown since then in notoriety.
It's totally grown. And we do have a lot of young people who are not residents of Melville Park, which I think is adorable and fabulous, and I love the energy that comes. But I know that there are some people in the community that sort of feel like, well, we have all these outsiders coming in, and like, yeah, that's what makes it awesome.
Right,
you know?
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can see where it could be a little bit annoying, but also like it's once a year. It's kind of fun and exciting. Yeah. So we talked about some of the notable architectures and landscapes there, but what about businesses? What are I know it's not a very business heavy part of Dorchester.
Yeah, we're pretty densely residential, so we could maybe claim some businesses on the outskirts, but for the most part, I'd say our biggest business would be the Epiphany School.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that is that high school? What years is that?
No, it starts at fifth
grade.
and runs until I think eighth.
Eighth. All right, so it's middle grades.
It's a middle school.
I had a nephew attend school there, and they're just an amazing asset in the community.
Yeah, it's a pretty building.
Yeah,
it's very nice.
I remember when they were coming in, when I first moved into the neighborhood, there was this big storage company that the building ran all along the T walkway. And when the Epiphany School was looking for a place to build, they came to the neighborhood and said, we'd love to knock down this big eyesore of a building and build, we have a vision for this campus that we'd like to build. And there was they're a great partner. John Finlay is a rock star, and he's a great listener, and he really engaged the community in the process of the development of the school and coming in to be a good neighbor and a good partner, which they are and continue to be. That was, I can't even remember how many years ago that they've been, but it's probably been close to 20 years that they've been, if my memory serves me correctly. Yeah.
What other, I know you mentioned there's a garden.
Yes. So along the T walkway, when I moved into the neighborhood, the walk from Melville Ave to the Shawmut station was just a trash-laden old tires that people would just, pull up on Melville Ave and throw them. And so when you were walking to the T, you had to walk through this wasteland area. And a group of neighbors got together, and the city was giving out free daffodil bulbs. I don't know if they still do this,
nice.
but and they basically said, you can come and get them for free as long as you put them somewhere in the community. So a group of neighbors, and I believe that Tom Toronto and Diane McCormick were among them, started just digging up, getting rid of the tires, getting rid of all the trash, and planting daffodil bulbs. And
Wow.
so in the spring, when they came up, it was the first inkling of the Shawmut Corridor Gardens. And then in the early 2000s, under then Mayor Menino, the city gave us some money, and we worked with the MBTA, and it was a long community process. It did not happen overnight, but we worked with the MBTA, with the city, and we were able to hire a landscape architect and a hardscape, work with the MBTA and the hardscape, and we were able to transform the whole walkway from a wasteland into this beautiful garden.
Oh, wow.
With local indigenous plant species.
Mm-hmm.
It was a game changer, and it still continues. The garden continues, and the community does a cleanup the first Saturday of the month, and the community maintains the garden.
Okay.
So that was one of the provisions that when we were able to do it, the MBTA and the city said,
We're not maintaining
We're
it.
not maintaining it.
Yeah.
So this is on the community.
Yeah.
So
They do work in partnership with the MBTA staff for like trash removal and stuff like that. But Sarah and Ken Weinstein have been doing this for many years, and
yes.
I help them out for a lot of Saturdays, and
Can you
doing
see that
excellent
from
work.
the Shawmut station?
Absolutely. You
Okay.
have to walk through it to
Okay.
get to the Shawmut Station. And I should give a plug to Boston Cares, too, because Boston Cares sends volunteers to every monthly cleanup.
Oh,
and
wow.
they have been phenomenal partners
Yeah.
in helping us to maintain the garden.
Yeah, they're great with their volunteers. It's really helpful.
Yeah.
Is the courthouse in your neighborhood? Okay.
It is, yeah.
Okay. It's right on the edge, right? Yeah, am I sensing some?
No, not at all.
Okay. The courthouse is good neighbors.
Good neighbors.
Yeah.
You know, the police and the folks who attend the courthouse, can tend to double park, especially on my street.
Yeah, I would imagine.
You know,
yeah.
But yeah, I think they've been great neighbors.
Yeah. What other kind of notable folks live in the neighborhood? You mentioned Tom and Diane, who are.
Yes. Diane McCormick and Tom Toronto have been there for a very long time and have been great advocates and activists in the community. I have to mention Jenny Moy, who's been in the neighborhood for probably 28 years, and she was the driving force behind the Shawmut Corridor Gardens.
Okay.
Literally a one-woman with a ragtag group of community members, but really drove that effort, and she's been great. You know, Candace Gartley, who runs ADSL in Fields Corner, she was part of the original organization called SUN, which was Shawmut United Neighbors, which was a sub-part of the Melville Park, what we call Melville Park neighborhood now. And she moved in there in the early 90s or late 80s, I believe.
Okay.
And she's been a really incredible force for good in the neighborhood and in the community.
Go ahead, say that again.
No,
please.
Joanne Thompson, who lives right behind the courthouse. She and her husband, Ben Thompson, have been tremendous assets to the neighborhood for a very long time as well.
Any former residents that people might know?
The new kids on the block
Yeah.
lived at 10 Melville. And when I first moved in, two brothers, the Knight family and the Knight brothers lived there. And the house is set back, but there's this enormous fence that had to be put up to protect the family from all
I would
the fans.
imagine, yeah. A lot of screaming preteen girls at that point.
Yes, there were. Yes, there were. They were moving out probably about a year or so, 2 years after I moved in. So,
Did you notice crowds? Were people finding them and stalking them?
There weren't crowds at that point in time, but there certainly were fans that you would see, coming up and peering through the fence and, just making themselves known to their idols.
I mean, maybe they'll see them out there and fall in love with them and decide that they're going to marry them. Yeah. What about other attractions? So you have Shawmut Station. That's your transit stop. Any other transit? Do you have a bus line that goes to Melville?
Like the 23 picks up on Washington and, the buses that run down Dot Ave. But primarily the big one's going to be Shawmut.
Yeah, which is, as a strictly residential neighborhood or pretty close to it, what are some of the challenges you all are facing?
Traffic, traffic calming.
Yeah. Do you have speed bumps? Did you get some?
We do now.
We do, yeah. So
okay.
that's been a pretty, I think, great development is the addition of speed bumps. They've done, I think, half of Melville Ave.
Okay.
And put them on some of the side streets, which I was a little perplexed by, like I want to say Paisley Park, which is not a heavily trafficked street. But yeah, we could use them definitely down the other end of Melville Ave too.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, there was, in the mid-'90s, there was a huge community effort to create traffic calming on Melville Ave. There used to not be any stop signs. You could go from Dorchester Ave to Washington Street, and people would drag race down Melville Ave because it's wider too.
Right.
And the community got together. This is another community story. A group of community activists got together in Melville Park Neighbors and worked. We had neighborhood meetings in people's backyards and invited the transportation folks from the city. And we would just, corner them and say, what are you going to do to, bring about traffic calming on Melville Ave? You take your life in your hands. I was afraid to cross with a stroller when my kids were little.
Gosh.
And eventually we got stop signs at Upland in Melville and at Hooper in Melville. So they were still sort of spaced.
Yeah.
So you could still pick up. And then there was a stop sign at Waldeck. So it made it harder to pick up speed because there were 3 points where you had to stop.
Yeah.
But that didn't stop cars from still driving fast after they've gone through the stop signs. So now we just recently, maybe the last 6 months,
about that, yeah,
we got the speed humps, and that has really been fantastic for traffic calming.
Yeah, I would imagine. I know that's one of the pushes that Councilor Fitzgerald, has been involved with.
Yeah, my son being, at that toddler pushing into stroller age, I'm, the problem's not solved, but there's still work to do. But
well, and walking the dog too. I mean,
there you go.
Yeah,
man about town.
Yep. How about your involvement with the neighborhood associations? How did you both get involved?
Well, so Doreen, I think you were probably starting this whole group many years ago.
Well, I have to say that there have been waves, and so I was part of the waves. So there had been a group of neighbors who were very well organized. I'm thinking of Brooke and Judith Baker, who live on Melville Ave and have been there since the 70s, and they've been great, solid rocks in the community. But there were people who had started an association, loose association, probably in the late 70s, early 80s. And then as things ebb and flow, as they do, people move, leadership moves, it was sort of dormant. And so when I moved into the neighborhood in 1993, there wasn't a formal association. And so we just there was a little bit of a vacuum when we started, leafleting, doing a newsletter, hand delivering it to 700 houses. And then Yvonne, who is not Yvonne Ruggles, who is part of our executive team, she and some other folks in the neighborhood, I'm thinking Peter Sasso and Alan McGoldrick, sort of reinvigorated the formal association. Okay. And so I have been part of the second wave, as it were, of the neighborhood association. And it's 100% volunteer driven, like all neighborhood associations, and so you're always looking for new leadership. And, we're excited to have Bill on board. And in the neighborhood, he's a great neighbor and a great leader.
So how did you get roped in?
No, good question. So moving into the neighborhood in 2020, around, heightened of COVID, still peak COVID pretty much, and attending a few of these meetings online. And I think with similar to a lot of volunteer-led organizations, the minute someone piques an interest, everyone's like, here, have my place.
Yes. Have we got a role for you?
Exactly, yeah.
Nice. And so what are you mostly concerned with as an association? I know your meetings are only virtual now, right?
We've moved to 4 times a year. So we're doing September, January, April, and June meetings. Before we were doing, I want to say we were doing 10 a year. We brought that down to 8, then to 6, then to 4.
Okay.
And we're all online now, but we're toying with the possibility of maybe going back in person.
Where would you go? In a house? You'd have to go in a house, right?
Epiphany.
Epiphany School.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
right,
they've
right.
been fantastic partners and, giving us use of their library or, cafeteria, anything that we need. They're
That's
there
really
for
nice.
us. But, yeah.
And you run a lot of events. So obviously Halloween is one of the notable events in the neighborhood, but you also do house tours?
Yeah, we did house tours. So interesting history of the house tours in Melville Park. In the late 70s, again, there was this big influx of a lot of artists and Boston Globe reporters and staff. And that group of people started a house tour in the late 1970s, early 1980s. And so there was this foundation of a house tour, and then it was dormant for probably 15, 20 years.
Okay.
And then around 1997, there was a situation where in Codman Square, they ran youth programming in the summer to keep kids safe and off the streets. And the funding for that went away. And so a group of folks in the neighborhood said, how do we help? And we've got this incredible asset, our houses, and how do we turn this asset into a fundraiser to raise funds to run youth programs in the summer in Codman Square? And that was the origin of the house tour. And Bill Walczak, who was at the Codman Square Health Center, Gail Lattimore, who was at the Codman Square NDC, incredible leaders in our community, said, we'll get behind you. It's a community-led effort, but we'll get behind you. And I remember bribing people to get involved by cooking dinners at my house and saying, if you come to a meeting, I'll feed you.
Yeah.
And, the community really rallied and people volunteered their houses with some trepidation initially. There was fear of
course.
What if people rob from my house?
Right. Or they're casing it while they're there.
Casing it while they're there.
Yeah, right.
But there were some intrepid souls who said, yes, I will put my house on the house tour. And it was just in Melville Park at that time. And it just grew, and we grew into Ashmont Hill and Ashmont Adams.
Yep.
And we had trolleys that would go around and bring people between the neighborhoods. And it was a great effort that went on for about 5 years. But like any volunteer-led effort, it was a huge amount of work.
Yeah.
As soon as the house tours were over, you would have a month off, and then you'd already start planning for the next year.
Yeah.
You'd start your planning meetings. So people got burned out. And also we were running out of houses,
Right. You can't do the same house every year.
You can't do the same houses every year.
So was it the same? Was it one day that you would just go from house to house?
Yes.
Okay.
One day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what you just paid a ticket fee for the whole event, and then
You went to the Great Hall and you bought your ticket, and that gave you access to the trolley all day long, and you could just go between neighborhoods, get off, get on. There were trolley stops.
That's so fun.
Yeah.
It was a lot of fun, a lot of work, but so much fun and so much neighborhood pride.
Yeah.
You could just, people just really got behind it, even if they weren't having their house on the tour. Or, we had a lot of talent in the neighborhood. We had a photographer, Joe Levenger, who took a lot of the photography that we used in the books. We had a graphic designer who would make the books every year, and it was all pro bono. So we really leveraged a lot of talent and assets in the community as well as the houses.
Yeah. But those are no longer happening.
They're no longer happening.
Unless an intrepid listener decides to volunteer.
Yes. Anybody who's interested, yes.
Yeah. What about Christmas? Halloween's big. Is Christmas big?
Yeah, so we do a Christmas event, right around which...
it's always the Sunday before Christmas.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, so we assemble and distribute and for sale for, I think, $10 or $15 or something. We charge for a luminaria set, and people light them off in their front yard or maybe like on one of the parks or something like that, the Shawmut Tunnel Cap. They all get lit. We meet there for on the tunnel cap for song. We've got a neighbor who leads us in song. We've got song books that I think, probably have 30, 40 years of dust on them.
Yes,
but
yes.
we're trying to break that dust off. And we had a visitor from Santa Claus one year, which I've taken the role of no spoilers, but it is me on the back of the pickup truck showing up.
Yes.
But yeah, we didn't do it last year because I want to say we were in the single digits temperature-wise.
frigid.
Was it really?
Yeah. So we were in the negative temps for with the wind chill. So we're like, maybe just light them off in your yard. It's fine.
I heard a rumor. Speaking of the Shawmut Tunnel, I heard a rumor that was going to be converted into a green space. Have you heard anything about that?
Yeah, that is it called the Dorchester Greenway?
Yeah.
So the vision for that is to develop the tunnel cap that runs from Ashmont. It's now behind fences.
Yeah.
It runs all along behind Samoset Street, and then it runs, of course, through Shawmut.
Okay.
And
then after Shawmut, it's open air for a bit?
Well, behind my house, which I abut the tunnel cap, it is fenced off.
Okay.
And that came about because neighbors in the 1980s, there was a lot of crime and drug activity on the T walkway behind the houses. And so the neighbors, asked the T to fence it off. And so the vision for the Dorchester Greenway is that would be opened up, and it would be a bike path, a walking path, a passive park space.
Yeah.
And there's mixed feelings about it because it would be amazing on paper, and the renderings are beautiful. But it's also a space that could be, once again, a space that people gather who may not have good motives for being there. And the other thing that I think a lot about is how much effort goes into maintaining the Shawmut Carter Gardens, and therefore how much work it would take to maintain that stretch of parkway.
Yeah.
And so there would have to be a provision in any plan for the ongoing maintenance of the park space.
And funding.
And the funding that goes with that, yes.
They did a review, I believe, more recently. They had a grant, something to the tune of, I think, $600K, where they were looking at a viability study for the project. It does have a lot of support, and I mean, it'd be great to see what is essentially just a barricaded area for trees to fall, turned into a pedestrian walkway for the residents, not just of Melville Park, but right down into Ashmont.
Right. Yeah, I would love that. Well, you don't have a lot of businesses in your area, so I think you can be very unbiased with this last question. Your favorite restaurant in Dorchester?
Can I get nostalgic?
Sure.
Okay, the Blarney Stone was my second home for 25 years. I used to joke it was my living room because I would be there so many times during the week. I'd have meetings there. At one point, I worked in Fields Corner in Codman Square, so I'd have business lunches there.
Yeah.
And then I'd come back with my kids at night. And so then, of course, after that was the Ashmont Grill, which was
also
one of my other awesome favorite places.
Yeah.
So I would say the place that is a go-to place for me for brunch is Sweet Life in Lower Mills.
Okay.
They have the best homemade hash, and it's a favorite in our household. So that's where I go when I'm looking for something to eat.
Yeah. How about you, Bill?
It's kind of a tough call. I do love, it's kind of sweater weather right now. I think also lends itself to hot soup weather.
Yeah.
So a good bowl of pho is pretty great. So faux hua, faux lait, Hong Kwe,
You've got your pick.
Guang Nam. Yeah, take your pick. We're lousy with amazing restaurants.
Yeah,
in Dorchester, but 224 Boston also great. Bowery, Via Canuccia, amazing.
Oh my gosh, Via Canuccia. Yeah, I have to say that's my favorite night spot. It's hard to get a reservation.
It sure is.
But the food there.
You can almost claim them, can't you?
We can kind of claim them.
Yeah.
It's more St. Mark, I think.
I think so.
Or it's not St. Mark anymore. It's
not St. Mark's anymore.
I don't think, isn't it?
I think
Greater
it's still
Ashmont.
It's I mean, Wells right there is on the corner.
Yeah, I think it is still St. Mark's, that section of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I'm actually not sure I had heard that before.
We were so fortunate to get Via Canuccia in that spot.
Yeah.
Because we were really lacking a sort of after the grill closed and the Blarney closed, and for me, I love to be
Gianna, which is the space it was before.
Yeah. I love the walking aspect because you can have a glass of wine or two, and just
and not
walk
worry
home
about it,
and not worry about it. Not really enjoy yourself and enjoy a great meal. So, yeah.
So I appreciate this conversation. I think anybody who has a free afternoon, especially if the weather's nice, go walk down through the Melville Park neighborhood and check out the homes, the gardens, and the people, because it sounds like a great place.
Yeah, we'd love to have you.